In the White Mountains of New Hampshire, winter is unforgiving. Temperatures plunge below zero, roads disappear beneath blankets of snow, and in these woods a person can vanish without a trace. On the night of February 9th, 2004, a college student named Maura Murray drove her car into a snowbank on a desolate stretch of Route 112. When police arrived just minutes later, her car was still running. The airbags had deployed. Her belongings were scattered inside, but Maura was gone. She has never been seen again. Maura Renee Murray was 21 years old, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She was described by friends as intelligent, driven, and athletic. She ran track. She excelled academically. On the surface, her life appeared promising, but beneath that surface, Maura was struggling. In the months leading up to her disappearance, those close to her noticed changes. She seemed distracted, withdrawn. There were pressures mounting: academic stress, family issues, relationship troubles with her boyfriend Billy, who was stationed at Fort Sill in Oklahoma. Maura had recently been caught using a stolen credit card to order food. She'd crashed her father's car after borrowing it for the evening, an accident that left her shaken. These incidents weighed on her. Friends would later say she seemed overwhelmed, but nothing in her behavior suggested she was planning to disappear. In the days leading up to February 9th, Maura made a series of decisions that would later fuel endless speculation. On Saturday, February 7th, she attended a party. She was seen crying, visibly upset. A friend asked what was wrong. Maura wouldn't say. Then, on Sunday, February 8th, something shifted. Maura began searching online for directions to the White Mountains and Vermont. She researched condominium rentals in the area. She sent emails to her professors and her work supervisor, claiming there had been a death in the family. She needed to take the week off. There had been no death. On Monday morning, February 9th, Maura withdrew $280 from an ATM, nearly all the money in her account. She bought $40 worth of alcohol, vodka, Baileys, Kahlua, boxed wine. She packed a bag with clothing, toiletries, textbooks. She printed out directions to Burlington, Vermont. And then, around 3:30 in the afternoon, Maura Murray got into her black 1996 Saturn and drove north, alone. The drive from Amherst, Massachusetts to the White Mountains takes about 2.5 hours. Maura would have traveled Route 91 north into New Hampshire, then turned onto Route 112, a winding 2-lane road known locally as the Wild Amino Osuk. It was cold that night. Snow had been falling on and off. Visibility was poor. At approximately 7:27 p.m., near a sharp curve in the road in Haverhill, New Hampshire, Maura's Saturn went off the pavement and struck a tree. The front end crumpled. The airbags deployed. The car came to rest in a shallow snowbank. A local woman, Faith Westman, heard what she described as a loud thump. She looked out the window and saw the wrecked car. She called 911 at 7:27 p.m. At 7:29, just 2 minutes later, a passing motorist named Butch Atwood stopped his school bus near the crash. He saw a young woman standing beside the Saturn. He asked if she needed help, if she wanted him to call police. The woman, believed to be Maura, said no. She told Atwood she'd already called AAA. She seemed composed, but shaken. Atwood, by 7:46 returned to his home across the street fewer than 20 minutes after the crash. Sergeant Cecil Smith of the Haverhill Police arrived on scene. The Saturn was still there, engine off now but still warm. The driver's side door was locked. The windshield was cracked from the airbag deployment. Inside the car, police found Maura's cell phone, her AAA card, MapQuest directions to Burlington, textbooks, a stuffed animal, empty and partially consumed alcohol containers, and a rag stuffed into the tailpipe. But Maura Murray was nowhere to be found. No footprints led into the woods, no blood, no sign of struggle. It was as if she had simply stepped away from the car and evaporated into the winter night. The search began immediately, but initially, police treated the scene as a driver fleeing to avoid a DUI arrest. But as hours turned into days, and days into weeks, it became clear this was something more. Maura's family arrived in New Hampshire and launched their own search. Volunteers scoured the woods. Dive teams searched rivers. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Helicopters swept the White Mountains. Nothing. The rag in the tailpipe raised questions. Some speculated it was an attempt to disguise exhaust smoke from a known problem with the car. Others saw it as suspicious. The damaged cell phone had attempted several calls in the hours before the crash, but hadn't connected. Phone records showed no outgoing calls after the accident. Witness accounts conflicted. One neighbor reported seeing a man smoking a cigarette near the car just after the crash. Another claimed to have seen a dark SUV. Neither were confirmed. The last confirmed sighting of Maura Murray was Butch Atwood's encounter at 7:29 p.m. After that, silence. In the 2 decades since Maura vanished, 4 main theories have dominated the conversation. The first, Maura, disoriented after the crash and possibly intoxicated, fled the scene on foot to avoid police. She wandered into the woods, became lost, and succumbed to hypothermia. The area is vast, heavily forested, and temperatures that night dropped well below freezing. Without proper clothing, a person could die within hours. However, cadaver dogs tracked Maura's scent east along Route 112 for roughly 100 feet, then lost it, suggesting she may have entered a vehicle. Additionally, no remains have ever been found despite multiple extensive searches. The second theory, Maura accepted a ride from a passing motorist either willingly or under duress, and met with harm. Route 112 is remote, but not deserted. The abrupt end of the scent trail supports this. Maura may have been trying to avoid police and accepted a ride quickly, but no credible suspects have ever been identified, and if Maura was abducted, the perpetrator left no physical evidence and has never been caught. The third theory suggests foul play. Some believe Maura encountered someone with violent intent, either at the crash site or shortly after. Attention has turned over the years to individuals in the area with criminal histories, but no charges were ever filed in connection with Maura's case. There is no forensic evidence, no witnesses to an abduction, no confessions, and no body. The fourth and perhaps most debated theory is that Maura disappeared intentionally. She staged the accident, left her old life behind, and started anew somewhere else. Her actions in the days before, lying about a family death, withdrawing cash, packing belongings, researching rental properties, suggest premeditation. She may have been planning an escape from mounting pressures. However, Maura left behind her credit cards and ID and did not access her bank accounts after February 9th. There has been no confirmed sighting, no communication, no trace of her in over 20 years. To vanish so completely would require extraordinary planning and discipline. Maura Murray's case went cold, but it never went quiet. In the years following her disappearance, her story spread across online forums, podcasts, and documentary series. Her family never stopped searching. Fred Murray, Maura's father, spent years combing the woods of New Hampshire until his death in 2021. Julie Murray, her sister, continues to advocate for answers. In 2019 and again in 2022, new searches were conducted using advanced technology. Investigators re-interviewed witnesses and re-examined evidence. Still, nothing conclusive. The New Hampshire Cold Case Unit has kept the investigation open, stating publicly they believe Maura came to harm, but cannot confirm how or by whom. 20 years have passed since Maura Murray disappeared into the night. The questions remain. Who was Maura Murray running from? Or was she running towards something? Was she the victim of a terrible crime, or did she walk away by choice? Did she die alone in the cold, or does she live on somewhere unseen? The truth is, we may never know. What we do know is this: Maura was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a young woman with hopes and struggles, just like anyone else. And whatever happened to her on that cold February night, she deserves to be remembered not as a mystery, but as a person. Until answers come, the road stays empty, the questions unanswered, and Maura Murray remains missing.